Thank you for double-clicking your mouse tonight. You're listening to the Midnight Frightcast in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Midnight Frightcast episode number 55. I am one of your hosts, Josh, sitting across the airwaves on the other side of the state, I guess. Maybe not the other side, but it's Greg, the movie guy.
What's up?
To my left is the Scream Queen herself, Maddie.
Hi, kids.
And it's not the other side of the state, I'm sorry.
The other
and then
side
there's
of the county?
Yeah, whatever.
Maybe.
He's in fucking Omaha, okay? I'm sorry. And then the doctor of everything else is Patrick.
Hey, everybody, how's it going?
We're just going to kick it right off, going right into it. We watched a trailer. Tonight is Swamp Thing. Who wants to start?
Well, I'll start because, tonight is basically my fault all the way around, I guess, because I picked the trailer, I picked the movie, and so I'll talk about it first. The reason I picked this is because, James Wan is attached to it, and also that it is being advertised as kind of a horror film as opposed to a hero film. So I threw this one out there. We saw the trailer, and to me it was more of a teaser than a trailer because it didn't really give much substance. It was mostly just clips, about 35 different clips all thrown in a row without much binding it together. It definitely had some horror elements to it, but I still don't know what it is.
Yeah, for sure. I think when you shared that trailer, I was like, is there anything that James Wan is not attached to anymore? Because his name's on everything. But I also think that everything he touches lately is pretty much kind of gold. He's doing pretty well on everything he puts his name on, for the most part. I don't know anything really about Swamp Thing. I was asking questions during the trailer, and those questions got answered, and I was corrected pretty quick on some of those questions. I'm not even going to throw them out there because they're fucking stupid questions.
It wasn't a stupid question because when you think of Swamp Thing, my mind went to the same place yours did, where it was the whole trauma thing with Toxic Avenger.
Yeah, right.
Yes, there was a comic book of Toxic Avenger as well after his creation. However, with Swamp Thing in the DC universe, he's more of an anti-hero, so I can see where it kind of fits into horror genre or even a subgenre.
Yeah.
So I could see him fitting into that, but from this trailer, I just didn't get much of what the movie was about.
Yeah. What do you think, Maddie?
As I said before we started, I really like James Wan, but I really hate every DC movie I've ever seen. So honestly, unless this just gets like insane rave reviews, I'm gonna sit it out. Yeah, I don't know what the movie's about.
Yeah, well, it's weird too because it's not gonna be a theatrical release. I thought when I first saw it, I was like, "Oh, this is gonna be like a theatrical release kind of thing." But when we were watching it at the end, it was like it's DC Universe. There's a streaming thing for DC Universe or whatever, and I had no idea that even existed. So
yeah.
I think that's kind of weird.
Yeah, I was really surprised by that as well to see that at the end of the trailer because I had thought that it was going to be a theatrical release as well.
Greg, what'd you think?
I agree that it's definitely more of a teaser than it is a trailer of what the movie is about. But here's the issue that I'm having with it. It looks really, really creepy, really intriguing, and really enticing in the trailer. But is that what we're going to get come release? This is the big thing that I've been noticing about horror movies recently is these trailers really, really suck you in. And then as soon as you step into the theaters, as soon as you pull the trigger on it, you get a giant swift kick to the balls because they are not as good as the trailer. So I'm looking at this thing with a grain of salt thinking, I really kind of want to see it, but do I? So I will probably check it out. And I don't know if it's going to be like an immediate viewing, but at some point I would like to check it out and see what all is going on and what all they do with the Swamp Thing character as a horror type movie. But I'm going in with red alert raised.
Yeah, fair enough.
It does look good, and like it looks beautiful. It looks like beautifully shot, and I like the look of the Swamp Thing and everything. But yeah, I don't know if like beyond it, I don't know if I'd go to the streaming site to check this out.
Yeah, I don't know that I would go out of my way to check this one
Yeah,
out.
for sure.
I did think it was kind of weird that they showed the swamp thing in the trailer. I feel like a lot of like these kind of like monster movies tend to not do that, but to each their own, whatever they want to do, I guess is fine.
Yeah. So, I guess that's pretty much the trailer wrap up.
Comes out May 31st on DCUniverse.net.
Cool. So let's just swing into news. Does everybody have news?
No.
Maddie's
The
no
what?
news. Greg, do you have news?
The what?
The what?
He's not even here, and he still figured out a way to do it. Well, Greg, you got news, right?
I'm on to you, Josh.
What's your news, Greg?
No, I don't.
Oh, you don't have news either?
Wow.
Fuck.
I have
This
a
is
feeling this is
slow.
going to be like a really short cast this time.
Yeah, it might be. But our topic, we might be able to dive into some
Yeah.
length. So,
Yeah.
I feel like if Greg does not bring news, then you guys can't do the news.
But I've got news.
Fuck.
See?
Well, why don't you? Do you want to start, Patrick?
I
You
can
got- How
start.
many do you got?
I just have one.
You have one?
And it's not like really big news, but it's news.
I'll take it.
That Netflix has canceled Santa Clarita Diet.
Yeah, it's some bullshit.
I think it is. And because season 3 I thought was really, really solid.
Yeah.
I thought it was a good season. The fans have already hit the Twitterverse to try to save the program, but they said that they've opted to cancel this series.
Did they say why?
Netflix generally does not announce why they have canceled any of their shows. However, there is large speculation that it's with the way they model how they finance these shows as they go through. As in the first season, they pay for all of the production. And then as second season and third season rolls in, then it starts to shift back over to the producers have to become more responsible for that, not necessarily Netflix as a company.
Yeah.
So the shows themselves become more and more expensive. So that's when Netflix decides to drop them.
So if they're putting the financial, I guess, burden on the producers and everything, and they're not throwing money at that anymore,
Yes,
can somebody take that? Could that go to Hulu or could that go to Prime?
I'm sure
mean-
that someone could probably try to save it. Yeah.
I mean, if Netflix isn't gonna invest in something and leave it on a fucking cliffhanger, then I don't know why somebody couldn't just
Yeah.
say, "Oh, maybe Hulu or Prime."
And that's
Prime will take
a
it.
huge disadvantage. And I've said this about Netflix before is when they, and Hulu as well, when they post an entire season at one time and then decide to shut something down, it doesn't give the writers an opportunity to end the show.
Yeah,
You don't have an opportunity to write an episode that actually brings it to a conclusion that the
Yeah.
fans can accept. They just end a show.
Well, I kind of wonder if that will change the way that people or that Netflix is approaching series anyway, because it seems like they're only letting their original series run for like a few seasons. So I wonder if people will start writing shows that can wrap up in 2 or 3 seasons
Right,
instead of like something that'll just go forever.
But they do storylines that only last a season.
Yeah.
But Santa Clarita Diet could have easily wrapped on season 4. Season 4 could have been the end of that. It would have ended on I think a good note because there wasn't a whole lot more they could do with it, but they could have at least had a chance to finish it and let the characters kind of finish their story and their journey of where they're going. Because it ends on a real cliffhanger. Season 3 does,
And I think 4 to 5 seasons is probably a good run for any show.
Yeah, I think so
Walking
too.
Dead. But yeah, it's a bummer, and it's really weird because they announced when season 4 was coming back earlier in the month.
Right.
It's like March 4th of 2020 or whatever.
Yeah.
Netflix Santa Clarita Diet was coming back, and now the cancellation.
And
news.
then they canceled it all.
It
of a sudden,
sucks.
so. But if you loved it, go out, join the Twitterverse, see if you can save it.
Yeah.
And that's all I've got for the news.
That's cool. Yeah, my news wasn't really huge either, but I did share it in the group message as well. And I was really excited because they are remaking Stephen King's Salem's Lot,
Yes.
which I've never actually seen Salem's Lot. I am that guy. But it's also a fucking 3-hour movie.
This is the first time it's been made into an actual movie.
Okay.
Both of the adaptations so far have been made for TV.
Toby Hooper made one.
The first
that
one.
was for TV. Okay.
That was with David Soul.
And then they did a miniseries, correct? Or was that it?
It was a miniseries.
Okay. But I've never seen Salem's Lot, so
And then there was the Rob Lowe version of it, which was not good.
okay. So it's gone through some variations, I guess.
Yep.
Has there ever been a good adaptation of Salem's Lot?
I thought the first one was pretty good, but I was pretty young at that time, and so I enjoyed it. And plus, the fact that I'm really excited about this, because Salem's Lot is one of my favorite Stephen King books. It's one that scared the crap out of me. I would used to read it at night, and it would just keep me up at night. So I'm really excited that they're finally doing an actual movie of this and not just a made-for-TV version, because they can throw the gore at this one. They can make it an R-rated one if they want to. And I'm glad that James Wan is attached to it, because I know that there's an opportunity for that to happen. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, you posted that, and I was like, yee! I was so excited.
The same writers that did the It remake are on it as well. There's not a release date. There's not anything, a ton of details on the remake besides what you already said about James Wan and everything. But I'm oddly excited for something I've never actually seen before.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think Stephen King is such an amazing story writer, and I'm a huge fan of his books too, but I feel like a lot of his early adaptations of his work were not good.
No.
Some of them are great, but a lot of them fall flat on their face, so I think
a lot of his early adaptations were because he was writing the screenplays for them as well. He's a great novelist. He's a horrible screenwriter. Yeah,
and so I think it's great to see these good stories like being told like they should and being given the justice that they need, because as I said, as much as I enjoy a lot of earlier Stephen King movies, I will happily admit that they're not good.
Yeah. Yeah. So that was my news. Like I said, not a huge topic, but something that I will definitely keep my eye on for sure. So
yep, cool.
That would be the news.
The what?
The news.
That was the news.
News.
I thought Greg left you hanging there for a second.
That's what I thought. I think he's gonna be sitting there fumbling with his phone. I can't take it off mute.
He's leaving Patrick hanging. What have we been watching? What have we been watching? Who's been watching what? Who wants to talk about what they've been watching?
I'll go. I've been watching Game of Thrones.
Yes.
Of course. And then a couple casts ago, either the last one or the one before, I said I had watched a 1986-ish movie called House, and I actually watched the second one of it. And it's actually, I liked it a lot better than I liked the first one. It was really goofy and fun, and I don't think it was a horror movie, but it was one of those I don't really think it was meant to be. It just kind of like dipped its toe in the horror genre a bit, but it was a fun one. Not one I'd probably revisit, but just something light.
Cool.
Yeah.
Greg.
So I was fortunate to acquire opening like the first showing of the Avengers Endgame on Thursday. That was my big achievement for the week. I got to see that, and then I actually went and saw it on Saturday, and I was extremely pleased. I've already got my blog post dropped on gregthemovieguy.com. Go and check that out and share it with your friends. Really excited with what they did with it. I feel like it was a great closing to this almost, not almost, but decade-long saga that was going on.
Greg, did you say you saw it twice?
I've seen it twice so far, yes.
Wow.
Damn.
Jeez, man.
Good for you.
That's an investment.
Yeah.
And I've got an opportunity to see it Tuesday, too, if I want to.
Jesus.
So.
But you already know how it ends, so why go again? All right?
Because it's that good.
Yeah, all right, cool.
So, Greg, with the Avengers, then, without giving spoilers, I had heard that there's nothing at the end, but there's something at the end. Did you sit through the credits?
As far as like a post-credit scene?
Yeah.
There's no spoilers in this. There is absolutely no post-credit scene. I sat through the entire thing.
That's what I heard, too.
There was nothing.
Yeah, because I had heard that... Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, the only thing that you'd want to sit through is like the initial, these are the actors in the cast, because that's actually pretty cool what they did with it.
Okay.
But once it starts rolling credits, like bottom of the screen to top of the screen rolling credits, there's nothing that happens after that.
I think that's maybe what I heard was that there was something with the first part of the credits, and there wasn't.
If you stay through that, it is pretty cool what they did with that.
Okay.
Otherwise, after again, once credits roll, that's it.
Awesome.
So
cool. Anything else, Greg?
Not really. This week has been stupid busy for me, and I barely had enough time to really bring my head above water than to watch anything else. So.
And you were too busy watching The Avengers multiple times.
Well, I mean, that is 6 hours worth
Yeah.
of movie right
Yeah,
there.
that's-
So yes, that's very true.
That's a lot.
Patrick, what do you got?
Yeah, I have had a little bit of time to fit some watching, some viewing, some screen time with everything else going on. I have caught up on Game of Thrones, which I'm really excited about. Watched the rest of the Chilling Adventures of Sabrina Season 2. It got really dark this season. I thought it was really good. Interested to see where they go from there. There's a show on there. Now, we covered the movie After Dot Life a few weeks ago, but there's a show on Netflix called Afterlife, written and directed by Ricky Gervais. And guys, I got to tell you, Ricky Gervais to me is just an amazing individual. He's so creative. He's so good. He has a couple, maybe 3 shows on Netflix, and I say just check his stuff out. He is so good. It is just a slice of life when he writes. So Afterlife, check that out. And then my wife and I were able to get out into the actual theaters, and we caught La Llorona.
Yeah.
And I know that 3 of us have seen that. Greg, did you say you said that? I know you're muted, so I'll talk for just another second here while you get unmuted.
I have wanted to see it. I just have not had a chance to. So maybe this
okay.
week or in the next coming weeks, I will.
Okay, I thought I had read in the message group that you had seen that. But yeah, Josh, I know you had seen it and
Yeah.
weren't as impressed as maybe I was.
Gotcha.
I will say that I liked it.
Okay.
I will say it's not my favorite of the Conjuring universe. To me, it was pretty vanilla Hollywood horror is how I would describe
much,
it.
yeah.
I wasn't disappointed, but I wasn't elated walking out either.
Yeah.
So,
Patrick, does it kind of fall under that thing like when I had talked about the Swamp Thing trailer, where the trailer just gives it so much more oomph, and then the movie just kind of takes it flat on its face?
no, not even that.
It doesn't fall flat.
Okay.
Yeah, it doesn't fall flat. I mean, it has its amount of tension and everything else. But like I said, I think it falls within the average line of the Conjuring series quality.
Okay. Sure.
Yeah. I mean, was that it for everybody?
Yeah, that's it for
Yeah.
what I've been watching.
I mean, the only thing I wrote down for what I've been watching, because I've been doing a lot of like writing lately, so like, and I just can't. I used to like watch movies while I would try to write, and then I would discover at the end of that movie, I just watched the movie and I didn't write a fucking thing. So I have a writing goal now. So the movies have been put to the side, and now I got to try to get back into watching more shit because I haven't done that. So the big movie that I kind of saw this last week was Curse of La Llorona, and it had this really desperate kind of reach to attach itself to the Conjuring universe. I didn't know 100% before talking to Patrick that it was attached to the Conjuring universe, and I was wondering how they were going to do that. And then, no spoilers or anything, but it's literally a 30-second shot
it is so
in the movie that is just kind of a desperate attempt at kind of connecting it with the rest of the Conjuring, and it really kind of irritated me a little bit. I also thought that it was just full, like every fucking 2 minutes it had jump scares in that movie, I felt like. And I would rather have 5 really good jump scares over 30 jump scares in a movie. That was just too much. I was over it, and I was done by the end of that movie. I was like, oh my God, like, please calm down on the jump scares. It wasn't necessary. The best part of that movie, and the only thing that really got me through that movie, was I went with my brother and my dad laughed every time a fucking jump scare came out. And I knew he was having a good time. And so I could just hear my dad, like, to my left, laughing his ass off every time one of those came up. So that was at least kind of enjoyable watching him. And because he dug it. He enjoyed the movie a lot. But I don't think he'd seen the rest of the Conjuring movies at all. But yeah, for me, like Patrick said, it was pretty vanilla. It falls just above The Nun. Like, The Nun, for me, was the dog shit of the Conjuring. And then La Llorona was kind of... then I guess Annabelle and then La Llorona. But, yeah.
Yeah, and like you had said, the connection to the Conjuring universe is very flimsy. It's such a thin line.
It was not
to put it in there. It was almost they didn't need to do it.
Yeah, Annabelle Comes Home though was a trailer they played in front of it, and that actually looks really good. We'll see how much longer they can drag this Conjuring thing out.
Yeah, they've been going.
It's becoming the fucking Marvel universe, and there's got to be an end to it. So.
One piece of news that we did miss was
shit. I was just thinking that
Warren.
Yeah,
she passed away.
Yep, she did. I thought we talked about that for some reason on the last podcast. I don't know why,
but it happened just this last week.
Yeah, so
she was 92.
Yeah,
and she was a big part of actually being on set and helping out. Is it Vera?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, kind of work her way through playing that part. So we'll see how much further it goes now that she's passed away.
Maybe they can get away with more because there was like all these clauses in the contracts that they couldn't depict them in a certain way.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Because the Warrens, they were not necessarily nice people.
They weren't necessarily liked people either.
No.
So.
Yeah. And there was also a third person involved in their relationship and
really?
all sorts of different fun facts.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Cool. Is that kind of what we've been watching? Did you hit everybody? Cool. The topic that we're going to hit tonight that I'm actually really excited, as Maddie brought it up.
Yes, and thank you for saving me on that, Maddie, because the one I had picked sucked balls.
I didn't think it sucked that bad, though. I was ready to kind of tackle it. I thought it was going to be kind of interesting.
I thought it was a little too stodgy, a little too stiff.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
But yeah, Maddie for the win, because she swooped in and threw out a couple good topic ideas. So tonight we're going to cover the horror starter pack, which is horror films for non-horror fans. And kind of, we're going to do a top 5. We're going to each throw out just 5 films that we think non-horror fans would enjoy. So, but before we kind of get started, and I'm going to start with Maddie. It was her topic, so I'll let her start. But before we gonna go, I'd like to just get an idea of how you built your list. So, go ahead, Maddie.
So, since I am such a huge horror fan, I get a lot of texts around Halloween from friends that aren't fans of horror, but around Halloween, everyone wants to watch a horror movie. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of a struggle for me just because this is such a huge part of what I watch. I don't know what's not scary anymore.
Yeah, for sure.
We've all talked about being really jaded, but I have some go-tos. And what I kind of look for in a horror movie to recommend to a non-horror fan, there's kind of 2 sections I kind of steer people towards, but then I have kind of like my top 5 that I kind of am like, here you go. I do tend to steer people towards 80s horror movies because even though they're fun and good, they're kind of campy. I don't think they're really scary anymore. I also do tend to direct people to a lot of Stephen King movies because they kind of fall more in that sci-fi than horror. There's nothing really terrifying in a good majority of them. But the 5 that I have here are horror movies that we've talked. I know we're going to tackle this in a little bit. The whole is this a horror movie thing?
Yeah.
All the movies that I have here, except for like maybe 2, are movies that I'd be like, is this really a horror movie? It's kind of more of a thriller or something like that. Mm-hmm. I could just be a huge dick and tell people to go watch Serbian films and then be like, you will never see anything worse and it's fine. But it just depends on who I'm talking to, I guess, when I go about recommending a horror movie to people that, that's not their thing.
Cool. So what's your, I guess, countdown or whatever? What's your first horror film?
My first horror film, and I recommend this movie to everybody, is Trick or Treat.
Cool.
It's just, to me, it's a fun movie. To me, there's a couple maybe like jump scares in there. It's not super gory. I don't know. I just think it's a fun, cute movie that
Gotcha.
I've never, even like my sister does not like horror movies anymore, and she watched it and she was like, oh, that was fine. Mm-hmm. So
cool.
That's my number 1.
Number 1. Cool. Greg. So, start with your first horror film that you'd recommend, but tell us first how you built your list.
So when I think of setting up or somebody coming and asking me, hey, I want to get into horror movies, where should I start? What I want to do is I want to give them the best opportunity to really dive into what the genre is, because you look at different genres like action and comedy and thriller. Well, not really even thriller. Drama was the other one I was looking for. And there's not really a whole lot of sub-genres within those. And if there are, it's few and far between. Whereas horror, you've got like triple, quadruple the amount of subgenres that any of these other genres can have. So there's a lot of different horrors that people can get into. And I think that everybody has their own place within the horror genre that they should be able to like. So when somebody comes to me and asks, hey, I want to get into horror, what would you recommend for me? I would be like, okay, well, here's 5 subgenres that I think would be a good place to jump off at.
Cool.
And so that's kind of where I'm taking my portion of this with. And so the first one that I would recommend would be from the slasher genre, and that would be Halloween.
Cool.
That's a good, that's a good starter.
I feel like I also sat at home and I kind of feel like I guessed Greg's list.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that could have been a fun thing to do where we all kind of guess what the other person's going to pick out.
Yeah.
I think that could have ended in us taking a little break.
Yeah. Let's see, Maddie. Hellraiser.
I guessed it, yeah. I was like, Hellraiser,
I
there's no
actually
way.
didn't put Hellraiser on my list.
Yeah.
Patrick.
All right, before I jump in, I just want to say hello to Tony Crumpton, who's joined us online there.
Hi, Tony.
And a big shout out to Tony because we at Midnight Fright Films have actually done one of his shorts. He's a prolific screenwriter.
He's a fucking awesome screenwriter.
Yeah, he's written a hell of a lot of stuff. I'm going to be working on another one of his projects coming up. So if you have a chance to see any of his stuff, just go out, Google him, Tony Crumpton. And a lot of people have done his scripts, so check him out. Really good dude, really great writer, and we're glad that he joined us here. And he also says that, every movie ever made is a horror movie to someone.
Cool. And that's...
that's deep.
So, and also, we should probably have Tony on the show sometime. We should probably bring him on as a guest.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, he can call in.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I mean, if Greg can phone it in, anybody can phone it in.
Tony's been volunteered. Sorry, Tony.
So the way that I picked my list was that I approached it from the point of view of me recommending a movie to someone who has maybe seen 1 or 2 horror movies in their lives, and they're saying to me, pick something that maybe I would like that's fairly safe.
Yeah, for sure. Yep.
So it's not necessarily a list of my favorites, but a list of things that I think they would probably enjoy. But it's also based on what I think they could handle. And so my list is like 5 different subgenres of it with 2 picks in each subgenre. So
cool.
I'm just going with my first subgenre, which is horror comedy. And I will always suggest Shaun of the Dead.
Cool, yep. Yep. Good pick.
And then next to that, Behind the Mask, The Rise of Leslie Vernon.
Yep.
Less inclined to do that one because you have to kind of understand slasher movies to get the humor behind that one.
Yeah.
So I would probably say Shaun of the Dead first.
Cool. Yeah, like the way I kind of went about building my list was I am married to probably the most non-horror fan ever in the universe. My wife gets dragged to horror films all the time. She's a real trooper when it comes to that. She takes a lot of shit. So I drag her to these films all the time. She is anxiety-inducing for her. So I actually sat down with her and kind of chatted with her for a second. And so I built my list not necessarily for my wife, but I was like, if I got a chance to show a non-horror fan horror films, how would I ease them in to this genre? And like a big thing is for me is like wanting to show non-horror fans that this genre can be a ton of fun. Mm-hmm. If you just kind of give and ease into it, there's a shit ton of really fun horror films out. Not a lot of them on my list are fun, but I just wanted to find a way to how I would ease somebody in. So my first pick on my list was the Monster Squad. That is how I would ease somebody into a horror genre because it's not. I mean, I think would you call it a horror film? No. I'm not going to get this fucking
we're not
discussion.
playing that game.
But yeah, the Monster Squad I think is a great way to ease in to this genre. It's not really scary, but there are some spots in that movie that make you a little bit uncomfortable, and I just think it's a ton of fun. So, yeah, my first pick for the topic is the Monster Squad. Maddie?
My second pick, I've said before on here that I really like classic horror movies. And I think that's another really good place to get started just because they're not scary anymore. I hope. I mean, I'm sure there's somebody out there that would find them scary. But my next pick is actually Vincent Price's House on Haunted Hill. That's
cool.
a favorite of mine. And I do think it's just... I think it sets a total Halloween mood. I've played it in the background of parties before. I don't know, I just think it's a fun movie, and I think it's a really good, starter film for... I'd probably recommend that to someone who, wanted to watch a horror movie but was like terrified of them, because there's nothing scary in that movie.
Gotcha.
Maddie, if there was ever a movie I could go back and watch in the time that it was released, it would be Vincent Price's House on Haunted Hill.
Yeah, I love Vincent Price. He's amazing.
Absolutely, I completely agree, 100%.
Cool, Greg. What was your next pick?
So for my next one, I'm going to kind of coattail off of Patrick's choice here. Again, switching to subgenres and going with a horror comedy for those that, you know, they want to be scared, or they kind of want to understand what the horror genre is about, but they don't want to be like throwing a Serbian film or something like that. Maddie,
Is Serbian film a horror comedy?
Yeah.
No. I'm saying you don't want to throw them into the deep end. I would recommend Tucker and Dale versus Evil.
Yeah, that's a great pick.
That's a good one.
I think there's enough balance in there between the horror and the comedy. It keeps it light, but you get that some of those horrific elements in there, which is kind of a nice ease in to the genre.
How many times can we say ease in on this show?
Yeah, no.
Sounds really dirty.
Just ease in.
Just ease
We're
it in.
lubricating the non-horror fans.
Patrick, lubricate their minds.
The next subgenre that I had on my list is more along the lines of Asian horror.
Yeah.
So
a
I'm
good one.
going with tried and true Ringu,
Oh, cool.
which is really good.
Yeah.
Good one.
But if they like something that's a little more fast paced, I would suggest Train to Busan.
Yeah, awesome.
That's a good one.
Fantastic.
Yeah. So those are that's my second choices.
Cool. Yeah, Sid, again, talking to my wife. So her suggestion was she was a real big fan of The Witches. She thought The Witches was scary when she was younger. Do you know what I'm talking about? That movie, The Witches? Yeah. I didn't write it down, but that was one of the movies that she did talk about when I was talking to her. But she was like, if you were going to throw out a classic horror film to ease in a horror fan, what would you pick? And I went with Jaws. And
That was a good one.
I took Jaws off.
Yeah.
So I took the Jaws off the list when we did our March Madness. Greg had Jaws in my bracket because I was like, dude, it's an action adventure more than it is really a horror film, but it has horror elements. And so if I'm gonna show somebody a classic, but not like completely just throw them to the bloody wolves, I would show them Jaws. So Jaws is my next pick.
Sweet.
My next pick is kind of a guilty pleasure movie for me. It's Jennifer's Body.
That's a good.
That's a good movie.
Yeah, like, I don't know. To me, this is like the Mean Girls of horror. And I think it kind of lives in the horror comedy world. I think it has been a little bit since I've seen it, but I do remember really enjoying this movie the couple times that I did watch it. And it's fun. It's light. I don't know. It kind of has that. It's kind of a girly horror movie, I guess, but I think it's a good one.
I think Jennifer's Body is a good watch.
Yeah, it
So,
definitely
Yeah, it
is.
is.
Yeah,
And I can
So-
see how that's a guilty pleasure because most people wouldn't want to admit that they like that movie because of the lead actress.
I'm on here like
But-
every other cast saying how much I love Freddy versus Jason,
That's
so
true.
I don't
That's
think
true.
I can be ashamed of my
That's
horror
true.
choices.
Greg, what do you got?
So for my next one, I kind of got a little tripped up here. I was trying to figure out a good creature feature because horror movies are about the creatures that have been created in there, and I think it's one of the more important subgenres of the horror genre. And I really could not find a good creature feature, so I decided to go with the one movie that could encompass all creature features, and that was Cabin in the Woods.
Oh
Yeah.
good pick. Yeah,
Yep,
Good one.
definitely.
I think one of the best creature features that we've covered on the cast was a movie called The Monster.
The Monster.
Monster,
I think that's a
yep,
great
agree.
ease in for a non-horror fan. I wanted to put Patrick, you're next. I'm sorry, I fucking just skipped
Oh, that's
you.
all right. That's
Go.
all right. The next subgenre for me was paranormal. So I threw in Last Shift
Okay,
for that one or The Conjuring. To
Yeah.
me, The Conjuring's a little safer than Last
Yeah.
Shift. I don't know.
it's
Yeah,
way
no.
safer.
Yeah.
No, I actually think The Last Shift is way safer.
It's
than
way
The
safer?
Conjuring. Yeah,
Okay.
I think it is, but that's just me.
Well, it's the difference between indie and Hollywood
It's the difference
in those two movies.
I also think it's the difference between showing you and letting your mind
take
fucking
care of it.
create
True.
everything.
True.
So
I agree.
yeah, I wanted to make sure I squeezed the zombie film in here on the list because I'm a fan of that subgenre. And I could have put Cooties. because Cooties is a fucking film.
That's a great
and
film.
I could have put Zombieland because Zombieland's a ton of fun. But if I'm going to show anybody a fucking zombie film, like to start off the zombie film of all zombie films, I think every non-horror genre fan should see Train to Busan. Train to Busan's not only like a great like horror film, but it's a horror film with a lot of fucking like heart into it, and it tugs at every single emotion while you're watching that movie. So I would go, as far as creating great characters too, Train to Busan is the way I would go. So that's my third pick.
My next one is actually 3 films, but I recommend them all for the same reason, and they're from the same creator. And that's Pan's Labyrinth, The Orphanage, and The Devil's Backbone.
Yeah.
Those are all... I'd put them a little bit more in the drama thriller category, but they're all very dark, but they're beautifully told movies. My favorite movie of all time is actually The Devil's Backbone.
Fantastic, yeah.
And I would definitely recommend those for horror fans because I think you can... Non-horror fans, excuse me. Because I think you can watch them and just appreciate that they're amazing movies without really knowing... Putting a little sneaky on you, not knowing that they kind of exist in that horror genre as well.
Yeah.
So I'd recommend those to like people who are fans of drama and just like, you know,
Guillermo del Toro.
Yeah, del Toro is a fantastic storyteller.
Yeah. That's a great pick.
Yeah.
Greg, go.
So my next one is actually one of my lesser favorite type of horror subgenres, but I believe it holds one of the most important parts of the actual genre, and that was Possession. And I threw 2 movies in. The Exorcist, obviously having never seen it, but knowing how important and how iconic it is as a horror movie, it's one that has to be mentioned. Mm-hmm. And then I also threw The Conjuring in there as well.
Cool. Patrick?
Next subgenre for me was kind of like the slasher type one, and you guys are probably going to be surprised to hear that I would suggest these to people because these are movies that you think I don't like, probably in general, but I think and this isn't quite. I said slasher. I'm going to take it a bit further. It's more gore. So Saw. I'm throwing out there.
Yep, Saw's a good choice.
Because I think it's a good introduction to... Because it's not as bad as...
Hostel
or even any of the subsequent Saw movies after that.
Yeah.
That I think that's a good introduction. And Terrifier, just because it's fun.
Terrifier's a fucking
because it's
ton of
fun.
Yeah.
It's fun. It gets pretty damn gross, but it's also humorous gross in a way sometimes. So those are 2 that I would suggest, but with, an asterisk next to it. Just saying... Hey, if you want to check this out, just keep in mind it can get pretty gross.
These would be like, I think those 2 would be maybe for like people that like horror but want to go further,
right? For sure,
who are going to start going down that.
It's like, hey, I liked your first few suggestions. What's the next step type thing?
Yeah,
but those are 2 that I would throw out.
Yeah.
Saw's a great choice because I don't think anybody would watch Saw the way you did. Does that make sense? Like, I don't think anybody would sit there and analyze
it way
that
too
fucking
fucking
movie.
analytically. Yes, you're absolutely right.
Well, and that's my mom is not a huge fan of those super gory movies, but she actually ended up sitting down when I was watching Saw, and she watched it with me, and she liked it a lot because like it does have riddled with plot holes that it keeps your interest because it does have those crazy twists at the end, and that kind of makes up for the fact that they're sawing people's feet off and shit. So
yeah,
cool. Yeah, so like I had to make sure I at least put one bloody fucking movie on my list, and this is a movie I'd totally show my wife because it's an easy watch and it's a fun watch, but it's bloody as all hell. And I'm a huge fan of Fede Alvarez, so I put Fede Alvarez's version of Evil Dead on my list. I think that movie is a shit ton of fun. I'm a fan of his. I could have put Don't Breathe on there or whatever else, but I think Evil Dead is his masterpiece right now, so that's my pick.
My last pick is kind of what Patrick was saying. This is for the people that want to go a little further, and that is House of a Thousand Corpses.
Oh, fantastic.
I think.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's just I think it's a super fun movie, and like I think it's more disturbing than outright scary, I guess.
Yeah.
Like some of the, as my sister said, there are people like this out there.
Yeah.
And but I remember showing this movie to someone in high school that really wasn't a big fan of horror, not because she thought they were scary, but because she just wasn't a fan of them, and she loved this movie. It's a good time, I think, and I think it's the perfect Halloween movie. One of the perfect.
I think that movie's
movies.
more visually gross than scary.
Yeah. There's some shit happening, but like I could tell that like Rob Zombie was having fun with it, and I do think that really shows.
Yeah. Cool, Greg. What's your last pick?
So for my last one, I went with the psychological horror movie, just as another good way to ease in, lube up, however you want to put it, the brand new fan into the horror genre. And I have another 2 movies that I would recommend for them. First one would be Silence of the Lambs.
Perfect.
And then second one, I would recommend Get Out.
Gotcha. Yeah, that almost landed on my list as well. Get Out's a great choice.
Similar to those choices, I went with something that's a little safer for everybody. The Quiet Place.
Yep.
Yeah.
Is where I was going.
That almost made my list too.
And then I almost picked Get Out for the other one, but I chose instead Us.
Oh, yep. That was another one that was tossed around too.
Yeah.
So Jordan Peele is a great intro to people.
I think he is.
Yeah. Non-horror fans. So I wrapped up my list with a movie that's already been mentioned twice. Gonna throw it out there anyway, because this was the movie that actually halted my wife. And so, like I said, I brought my wife in on this conversation because, like I said, she's the kind of the biggest non-horror genre fan I know, and that was The Conjuring. Made it about 40 minutes into that movie and tapped out because it was just a little too anxiety-inducing for her. And like I said, you build more in your mind what's happening in that movie than anything. And I think those are the kind of movies that fuck with people more than any other movie.
Yeah.
I could see all the blood on the screen I want to, but if you make me think about what's actually behind door number 1, it's a little more scary. So The Conjuring was the wrap up on my list. So I thought that was a cool topic. That was a lot of fun. And like I said, if there's any horror fans that really listen to the podcast,
what are you doing?
What are you doing? Well, thanks for hanging out.
Honorable mention, can we throw those out?
If you got some honorable mentions, throw them out there. Yeah, for sure. Do you have some, Greg?
Yeah, I had 2. I do agree with Matt. There should be a Stephen King movie in a list like this because of what he's done for the genre and what he's brought to it. The Shining.
Yep, The Shining was a good one.
And then the second honorable mention, I love pitching it. I love throwing it out there, and I feel if you're looking for a movie that's going to truly scare the absolute crap out of you, go with Last Shift.
Yep, that's also a really good pick. So,
sorry, Greg, you were like, when you were talking, it was like doing that weird tunnel sound. And, and Maddie wrote down, is he getting abducted?
Maddie, do you have any honorable mentions?
The aliens are easing it in.
Yeah.
I don't. I feel like when people ask me about this, I have a lot of real horror fans that are like, what's an extreme movie that you would recommend?
Gotcha.
And normally, kind of my extreme picks that I tell people are, I always recommend I Spit on Your Grave. If people really want to fuck themselves up, I say go watch a Serbian film. I have it. Have a good time. Don't talk to me for a while. I don't know. So as I said, I normally get asked the more hardcore ones instead of, I don't think anyone wants to talk to me about horror movies if they're not a horror fan. Cool.
Patrick, you got any?
No, I had, side Bs for all of mine, so I think I covered everything.
Cool. Like I said, I thought Cooties was a lot of fun, and like a lot of the fun ones were kind of mentioned. Tucker and Dale was mentioned, Coward in the Woods was mentioned. Those are all great intros. Like I said, Cooties, Krampus, Better Watch Out almost landed on my list, but then it kind of didn't.
Babysitter could have landed on the list.
That could have landed, yeah. There's a ton of really fun horror films out there that if you need to be kind of just introduced and kind of a baby stepped into the genre.
Well, even Scream could have been thrown
Scream
out
would have
there.
been a great option, yeah. Check some of those more tame horror films out and kind of baby step your way. I'm trying my best not to say ease in. Baby
Just
step
say
your
it.
way
Just
into
give
those.
in. Just give
Right,
in.
and once again, we're talking to people who aren't into horror, and if you're not into horror, why are you listening to us? But
Yeah.
if you have friends, take that into consideration.
But if you're not into horror and you're looking to get into horror, this is a great place to come and hang out and listen anyway.
because this is a safe place.
it is a safe place.
I will say though, like
We'll let you in.
there is nothing I love more than like introducing non-horror fans to horror movies. I think that's so fun. There are so many movies that I love that I just keep around, not really to watch again, but I love watching them with other people who haven't seen them before, because like when I'm watching a horror movie, a lot of times I'm watching it with my boyfriend or my best friend who are both hardcore horror fans, and so we're not freaking out. We're sitting there going, oh, look at his eyeball, there it goes. Like,
Yeah.
so we're not getting freaked out, but like watching it with someone else who is like freaked out can kind of, change your experience. When
Yeah,
I first watched
definitely.
Paranormal Activity, I watched it with a bunch of girls in this creepy apartment, and we're all sitting there like hyping each other up, and I liked it a lot more than when I watched it later and was like, what is this shit?
Yeah.
So like I think who you
Gotcha.
watch the movie with can also, really make or break what you're doing.
For sure. So that was a good topic. Thank you, Maddie, for
Yeah, it's
a
saving
great
subject.
saving that one. Yeah, we're just going to wrap up tonight with our feature really quick. I don't know if it'll be really quick or not.
I
but,
think it might be pretty quick.
we covered 2018's Suspiria. Patrick has got deeds.
Yes, Suspiria 2018 for rent on Amazon Prime, running 2.5 hours. That was rough, guys. I'm
Son
sorry.
of a bitch.
A darkness swirls at the center of a world-renowned dance company, one that will engulf the artistic director, an ambitious young dancer, and a grieving psychotherapist. Some will succumb to the nightmare, others will finally wake up. IMDb rating 6.8, Metascore 64, Rotten Tomatoes critics 66, Rotten Tomato audience 68, so it's like right in that 65 area for all the critics.
Gotcha.
Let me talk about why I chose this film.
Yeah, please do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because when we did our 30 Days of Horror last year, and then we were winding down to the end of the year recap, our choices for the year, best of, this one hit a lot of lists. Mm-hmm. And so I put it on my list to check out as soon as it came out on DVD, etc. And it came out. And I was excited to see this because it was getting these good reviews and everything else. And what I should have done is, first of all, looked at how long the fucking movie was, because 2 hours and 2.5 hours for a horror film is a really long time to try to sit through and be thrilled for that amount of time. And two, just try to figure out why it received the reviews that it did. If I would have seen that it was 60-some across the board, I probably would not have picked this one. But like I said, I picked it because it was on a lot of people's top 10 for 2018. So that's why I chose the film itself. Also, it's a remake of Dario Argento's 1977, I think, version.
Yeah.
The original.
Yeah.
Suspiria.
Did anybody watch the original before you watched the remake?
know.
I did not watch the original. I started to, but after 2.5 hours of this one, I couldn't sit through another hour and a half of the original.
Gotcha.
And that's another thing. Why would you remake it and add on another hour
That's
to
in my
it?
fucking notes.
Yeah.
But do you just want to start, Patrick?
I
Start us off
can
with
go
our-
ahead and start.
Before you get started, I have to confess I was not able to watch this movie. I had no time to do anything this weekend, so I'm going to tap out for a bit.
You mean other than watching Avengers twice?
Yeah. This is your
watched
job,
it.
motherfucker.
I am totally calling you out on that one.
That's fine. Go ahead. I'd rather see Avengers than this.
I would agree with you on that.
Okay.
No, I watched this one. It's a slow burn. It is a slow burn. It takes a while to get going.
Yep.
There are shots that to me, this is kind of an art horror film. I don't want to jump into that question of is it horror, because I believe it is. It's just really, 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 really slow horror. There was only 2 scenes in there that I felt really pulled me in and got me going on it. And that would be when the main dancer's dancing and then the other person's getting thrown around in the other room, because I found that scene to be really interesting. I'm going to go ahead and spoil this movie anyway.
Yeah, it's
2018.
Yeah.
So it's been out.
Get your lives together, people.
And then the final scene down in the coven
Yep.
area. that one got me, even though the CGI blood was horrible on it. It was at least some action that was going on.
Mm-hmm.
One of the problems that I felt this movie suffered from, they tried to tackle way too many topics, trying to cover anything ranging from the patriarchy to what we should have done with Nazi Germany and all of this other stuff. Yeah. And the third thing I'm going to knock it for is the fact that they used Tilda Swinton to play 3 different characters, one being a man. And that was really obvious that she was playing the old psychoanalyst. Mm-hmm. It was so obvious that was her.
It actually wasn't. I didn't know that was her.
Really?
No.
Yeah, that bothered me. Once I realized that's who it was, it bothered me all the way through. Did you know who the third person was that she played? The witch with the sunglasses on at the very end.
Okay.
That was her as well. However, I felt there were things that were done well. I thought the cinematography was really good on it. Mm-hmm. I really enjoyed the choreography that was done in this thing. I thought, what's her name? Dakota Johnson did a really nice job with that.
Grace
Moritz was in it, but she had such a small role.
She's right at the beginning, right?
Yeah, she was right at the beginning. Well, I mean, she was kind of throughout, but she didn't really have much to do other than lay there and look dead.
Yeah.
So it had some names attached to it. I just felt it was an art movie.
Gotcha.
And it just lost me on the horror aspect of it.
Cool.
Yeah,
yep.
That's my initial thoughts.
Cool. Maddie, you want to go?
I'm actually going to shock the shit out of you guys from someone who wants every horror movie to be 26 minutes long, and that's it.
Oh, really?
I loved this movie.
Wow. Okay. All right.
Yeah, I really liked it. Going into it, I was like, oh no. Like, because I saw that 2.5 hour thing, and I was like, I can't do it. And I will, as I said before we started, I did break this up into 2 days. Mm-hmm. But right away, Chloe Grace, whatever her name is,
Moritz.
I thought her acting in the beginning was terrible. She was way overdone, and so I was just like, oh fuck me, I can't watch 2.5 hours of this. But
I didn't recognize her at the beginning.
Well, she's like, she got that emo thing going on. Yeah, I half expected her to break out in some My Chemical Romance or some shit. But after she left the screen, because as I said, I was like, oh shit, I can't watch this for 2.5 hours if everybody's this overacted. I really liked this movie. Maybe not as a horror movie, but there was a lot in this movie that kind of made me a little bit uncomfortable. And it's probably nothing that a lot of people would, but I hate being touched. And everyone was so fucking touchy in this movie. And I was just like, why are you touching her? Is there a special reason you need to like pet everybody when you watch? So that made me uncomfortable because I was like, just imagining it. And I was like, oh my God. I will say, even though this movie was very, very long, and I'll be 100% honest, I don't really know what happened. I know like the gist of it, but there was like the political stuff that was kind of going on in the background. I knew it was going on, but I didn't know what was going on. But like, I kind of got the main gist of it. I did think they made an actual effort to like not put a bunch of bullshit in this movie. Like they cut through stuff, like, I think pretty well. Like, when they had conversations, they made sure that something else was going on. So they kind of, like, wrapped everything up and was like, okay, let's go. There wasn't a lot that I was like, okay, this is dragging. Like, get going. I don't know, but, like, the whole, like, secret coven thing reminded me a little bit of Martyrs. I know you've seen it. I just got, like, a little Martyrs touch in there. I loved the last, like, 20 minutes of this movie. So much fun. And this has been my favorite portrayal of like death or the Grim Reaper that I've seen in a movie in a very, very long time. So I really liked it. I wouldn't watch it again, probably, just because it was a sit. It was a sit. It's a very slow burn, but yeah, I really liked it, and I'm surprised I liked it this much. Not that I was going into it expecting not to like it, but I wasn't expecting to like it as much as I did. Yeah,
you had mentioned the Grim Reaper thing, that the whole kiss of death at the end was really interesting.
Yeah, it was cool, and like I know, spoilers, I love the end where the like old like saggy woman was saying like, oh, I was blessed or something by Mother Suspiria, and she's like, nah, bitch, that's me. That to me, that whole thing was just
that was
really
a good
great
reveal, I felt, because you felt the main character, Dakota Johnson's character, was not she was completely naive at the beginning. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, no, I think this was a very good pick. Thank you. This wasn't a movie I would have watched on my own. So, yeah.
And from what I understand, the original is quite different than this one.
I did read Mr. Argento was not happy
Right.
with this one. He was like, you totally ruined the spirit of the movie. So I will go back and watch the original at some point. But yeah, really liked it.
Okay.
Cool. Yeah, real quick. My big reveal and I think I have to admit is so I started this movie at 1:00 in the morning last night, not knowing it was 2.5 hours long.
Yeah.
So I missed about 30 or 40 minutes in the middle because I fucking fell asleep, and I had to finish the last like hour and a half or so of it today. So there's definitely shit in here I missed because I was sleeping. So with that said, and just to get the shit out of the way, the runtime was ridiculous. The original, like you said, was an hour and a half.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how they felt the need to add that extra hour. And it makes me wonder if the original Suspiria was a little more tight. Because there's definitely spots in here I thought they could have let some stuff go.
Yeah.
Just to shorten the runtime. I don't think they needed everything in there. The one thing I kind of disagree with you on is I thought Tilda Swinton and Dakota Johnson were fucking amazing. Like I love Tilda Swinton's character.
I didn't think they were not amazing. I thought their acting was really, really good. Except it bothered me knowing that I could tell this was a woman playing an old man.
Gotcha.
And to me, once I discovered that, the makeup was horrible. Her vocalization for the character was bad because it sounded like, he was neutered because his voice was so high at that point and some other thing. Yeah. It just started to bother me once I realized that's who it was.
Gotcha, for sure. Yeah, I thought
no, but Tilda Swinton as the leader of the dance company. Tilda Swinton's fucking awesome. Anyway,
for sure.
I love her. So
gotcha.
And that dress she wore the whole time, this is like a total girl thing for me to notice, but I was like, bitch, that looks so comfortable. I want to dress like that all the time.
Just be in a dance company. There you go.
Yeah, I'm a fantastic dancer.
But like you said, just to kind of jump on the bandwagon, like the choreography was amazing. The cinematography was fantastic. And that last 30 fucking minutes of this movie was bonkers. And that was the place that put me all in on this movie.
Yeah.
If more of the movie kind of had more of those spots, 2.5 hours would have been nothing. But getting to that last 30 minutes, I got to a point where I was like, okay, please, let's just
it was a labor.
Let's find it. Let's get there.
I think they could have easily taken a half hour out of this movie, and it would have been a really fucking good
really
movie.
Tight movie. Yeah. But that last 30 minutes, I was like, oh fuck, I'm all in on this shit. Yeah, let's keep this stuff going. So I didn't hate this movie. I hated the runtime of this movie.
Yeah.
The actual movie, not knowing what Suspiria is, I fairly enjoyed. So that's my thoughts on that movie.
I do want to mention, even though there was nudity in this movie, I think they handled it very tastefully. Like, it wasn't like titties.
There was nudity in this movie?
Like, just really brief.
Well, that must have been a different version than you saw,
Yeah,
Josh.
I didn't see any nudity in this movie
there was
at all.
dicks in this movie, and I was just like...
Yeah, I saw the dicks.
Yeah, I was like... And that scene made me crack up because I'm like, we all know what us bitches would be doing if we had magical powers.
Well,
like,
and I think that was important at the... Because you saw it mostly at the end. I think, I'd tell you the truth, I don't remember it anywhere else except in the end, where it was a very cobble dancing and everything else. Of course there would be nudity at that point because that's part of the ritual itself.
Yeah, I was going to say, apparently, I've never seen a movie where anyone's done black magic with their clothes on.
Right.
So.
It's not like there was a shower scene or something like that, where it was all gratuitous. This was all within the moment of what was going on in the movie.
Yeah.
I think I watched the PG-13
You must have seen the PG-13
they were
version
fully
of that.
clothed in this movie.
Remember when she was having, like, the dreams and, like, it was, like, flashes of stuff? There was, like, some nudity in there, but as I said, it wasn't, like... a huge part of the movie, and that's to me is how, if you're gonna put nudity in a movie, you put dicks in there to make it even, and you just do little flashes. It's totally fine.
Yeah, even in that with the dicks.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. But the version Josh saw, I mean,
it's probably PG-13. I didn't see any other. I didn't see nothing but dicks.
Oh, okay.
So, but yeah,
butt dicks. What are butt dicks?
I mean, we could talk about it after the podcast is done.
Okay.
But yeah, I fairly enjoyed Suspiria.
All right. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and score this one. Then we rate our movies on the gore score, the fear factor, and our overall rating. So with the gore score, Maddie.
I'll give it a 5. At the end, it was fairly bloody. They did do a lot of, like, you knew it was bloody, but like with the lighting and everything, it wasn't gratuitous, I didn't think. But yeah, it was fairly bloody.
All right, Josh.
Yeah, I was gonna say 6-7 just for that
Wow.
that scene alone at the end. There's blood flying everywhere at the end there. So I mean, I'm giving it just for that scene alone. So.
I was gonna give it a 5 because to me, part of it was obvious CGI when the blood was like flying out of people, and stuff like that. However, there was some disemboweling and stuff like that was in there where they were removing body parts and stuff like that. So I would probably bump that back up to a 6 just because of that.
Cool.
Fear factor going the same way around, Maddie.
I'll give it a 3. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I would have sat in that same spot.
Yeah, I think I'm going to sit there as well.
Fair.
There was some tension built in there, especially when the I can't remember the character's name, when she was walking through finding the new rooms. And
Sarah.
When she fucking broke her leg.
Yeah,
Oh, God, that was gruesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So, yeah. And then the overall rating.
I'm going to sit with the online reviews and say like a 6.8, 7.
I was going to say 6.5.
Yeah, I think I fall in line with that, too. I was going to say just about a 6. On it, because I do appreciate the parts that were engaging, but I stick to the fact that it was at least a half hour too long.
Yeah, 100%.
Mine like comes from that last 30 minutes. Like when that started happening, I was like, yeah, baby, I'm happy I sat through this.
Yeah, if you can take that one section from like 30 minutes in, and then that one section at about an hour and a half in, and then the last 30 minutes, I think you just got a really solid movie.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. That's it.
Let's wrap it up with some plugs. Who's got plugs?
I do, shockingly.
Go ahead, Manny.
Next week, May 4th, at the Alamo Draft Theater, whatever it's called.
Alamo Draft House, yeah.
Yeah, thank you, in Midtown. They're having the Fashion, Film, and Funk Festival. Starts at 6 p.m. Eyes of Isabel, which I was in, is in there. And then also Nemesis 5, which is directed by my friend Dustin Ferguson, and it stars another friend of mine, Robert Langford, in there. So, go check it out. Some local film. I will not be there because it's the Kentucky Derby and I am busy. But yeah, that's something that's happening.
And The Eyes of Isabel is a ton of fucking fun. If you're going to talk about fun films, I had a lot of fun with that movie. So you should all go check it out. Yeah, if you're a filmmaker in Nebraska and looking to kind of get your stuff out there and seen. Right now on Film Freeway, the Prairie Lights Film Festival is still accepting submissions. It's free, and if you got a film out there, go check out that page. Submit your film, and let's get it up on the big screen. It's the Prairie Lights Film Festival takes place in October. It's at the Grand Theater in Grand Island. One of my favorite times of the year. So if you're a filmmaker, you should check all that stuff out. It's a good time. That's it for me. Greg, what do you got?
I am Greg the Movie Guy, and I am positively writing movie reviews over at gregthemovieguy.com.
Nice.
Get out your stopwatches. Patrick, go.
If you are a fan of the Frightcast, and we know you are, help us out. Make sure that you head over to iTunes or whatever platform you're listening to us on, and make sure that you rate and review us. Check us out online on Twitter at mfrightcast. You can also catch us out on Facebook and Instagram at Midnight Frightcast. So share, and share some more. Post it on your walls, tell your friends, and finally make sure that you check out our films at midnightfrightfilms.com.
Cool. Yeah. So pretty much that's the Midnight Frightcast for tonight. For Maddie and Greg and Patrick and myself. Thanks for hanging out. We'll see you next time. Ciao.
Peace.